I was 14 years old when I was convicted for the murder of my own mother and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Let me tell you my story and explain why the U.S. juvenile justice system needs to be reformed. But first, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. I grew up in a home full of violence, but it wasn't my mother who abused me. It was my sister, Leah. I first realized that Leah was crazy when she got angry at our mom for not getting the sneakers she wanted for her birthday. To get back at her, Leah hit herself with a baseball bat and afterward called Child Protective Services to tell them that our mom was unfit to raise us. It's crazy, but someone from CPS actually came over to inspect my sister's bruises, and my mom almost ended up losing custody over me and my sister. But that's exactly what Leah wanted. She terrorized us to let us know that if we didn't do exactly what she wanted, that she would punish us for it. Another time, our mom brought her new boyfriend home to introduce him to us. Leah took one quick look at him and said, "I don't like him. Get him out of the house." But you don't even know him yet. I'm sure you two will get along well. Well, my sister Leah doesn't like it when someone talks back at her. She opened the kitchen drawer, pulled out a knife, and screamed, "Get him out, now!" My mom knew someone was about to get stabbed, so she pushed the guy out of the house, saying, "Sorry, this between us two won't work out." Oh, and if you think my mom was a bad parent for never putting my sister in her place, then you just don't understand yet how dangerous Leah actually was. But I understand. I know Leah better than anyone because Leah treated me worse than anyone else. She was my mom's only biological child, while I had been adopted. Leah often told me I didn't deserve to be in her family and that she would make sure I died before mom, so that she would get all of mom's inheritance. For a while, she even had a list of ways to murder me and loved reading it out loud to me. "I'm not sure whether to put you in the washing machine or in the microwave, but I guess it's easier to make the washing machine look like an accident. Don't you think so too, sis?" And Leah wasn't joking. One time, she forced me to go with her to the top of a hill. There, she had a dog cage prepared that was strapped to a skateboard. She then forced me to go inside, locked the door, and asked, "Any last words, you filthy adopted parasite?" "Please don't, Leah. I'm scared." That's when she gave me a push and I started rolling down the hill. I knew that there was a cliff at the end, so I made the cage fall over in the hope that it would stop me. But by then, I had gained so much momentum that I just kept rolling down the hill until I crashed into a big stone that luckily saved me from falling down the cliff. However, I still broke 2 of my fingers and got knocked unconscious for several hours. When I woke up again, it was dark and Leah was gone. She had probably left me behind thinking I was dead. But the reason I tell you these stories about my sister is not to gain your pity, but so you understand what kind of sick psychopath she was and why she ended up murdering our mom in cold blood. The reason for our mom's murder was actually quite pathetic. Leah had long planned to go with her friends to Disneyland for her 16th birthday. But that didn't happen because my appendix ruptured the night before her birthday, and Mom had to stay with me at the hospital. Leah was murderously mad that Mom wouldn't drive her to Disneyland. She even called her, screaming, "How can you do this to me? It's my birthday!" "Your sister will be operated today. She needs my support." "You, Mom. I hope both of you die. When you come back, I'm gonna beat the out of you." We had never experienced Leah this angry, so we were petrified of going back home. Mom even carried a pepper spray in her hand when we entered through the door. However, all we found was a paper on the kitchen table saying, "I moved in with my friends." We were so glad that Leah was finally gone, but as I would later find out, Leah used her time away from Mom to execute her wicked plan to murder her and frame me for the crime. The first step of her plan was especially wicked. She sent one of her friends, a really handsome boy, to approach me on my schoolyard and ask me out on a date. This was the first time a guy had ever shown interest in me, so I agreed, and we soon after even became a couple. My friends all told me he was too good-looking for me and that I didn't deserve him, but of course I thought I just got lucky. I never suspected that he was working with my sister behind my back. Then, one day, I come home and find my sister sitting on a garbage bag while playing with a knife in her hand. "Hey, sis, you are back home. Everything good?" "Sure, I've never been better." "Great. Where is Mom, by the way?" "Oh, she's somewhere here in the house." "Mom, I'm home! Shall I cook dinner?" My mom didn't respond, so I went through all rooms to search for her. Nothing. So I asked Leah again, "Are you sure Mom is home?" She is here in the house. I'm 100% sure. But I have to go now to get rid of this trash. Right now, it's raining like crazy outside. My sister didn't seem to care and dragged the bag behind her outside. How weird. Leah came back 3 hours later and told her, Mom still isn't home. I'm getting worried. Oh, Mom is dead. I killed her. Stop messing with me. It's not funny and I really worry about her. I waited a few more hours until it was midnight. Then I called the police to report my mom missing. The police then contacted all hospitals to inquire if my mom was there, but to no avail. Meanwhile, we were living right next to a forest in which my mom often picked mushrooms. The next morning, a dozen policemen with sniffer dogs combed through the forest to find my mom. Maybe she had gotten lost or injured herself and wasn't able to walk back home. I was helping in the search too, but after a few hours, I got a call from the police. Hey, why don't you come back home? We gotta talk about something. Oh God, had they found Mom? Was she okay? I went home, opened the door, and for the first time in my life, I saw my sister crying. Then the police chief put his hand on my shoulder and said, I'm very sorry to inform you that your mother has been found dead. She was murdered! Someone murdered her! My sister screamed. I was shell-shocked and collapsed, but things only got worse over the following days. The police found the murder weapon close to where they found my mom, and it had my DNA fingerprints all over it, which meant that I became the prime suspect of the police investigation. Now, my stupid lawyer told me I shouldn't worry, because to convict someone of murder, one needs proof beyond any reasonable doubt, and I could simply claim that someone had planted my DNA on the knife to frame me. However, my lawyer didn't understand that my sister was behind all this, and that she was 2 steps ahead of us. While in court, I told the jury that my sister was a psychopath and that she must have murdered my mom. Meanwhile, Leah claimed that I had committed the crime. It was my word against hers. But this is where my so-called boyfriend comes into play. On the second day of the trial, he suddenly walked into the courtroom and took the stand. He introduced himself as my boyfriend and said, I have to make a confession. I believe that I am responsible for the murder. What? I was shocked because I didn't know what he meant, but he continued, a few weeks ago, I jokingly told my girlfriend that if she murdered her mom, that we could live off her inheritance, buy a nice house, and start a family together. I was only joking, but she started saying, yes, yes, we would never have to work again and could enjoy ourselves. My girlfriend then even told me that the next time her mom would clean the roof of their house, that we would push her off the ladder. Of course, I told her I wouldn't do that, but she must have followed through on her plan to murder her mom anyway. My boyfriend's story was completely made up, but at least it all made sense now. This handsome boy had never been interested in dating me. He had only pretended to like me so he could frame me for my mom's murder. Afterward, he and Leah would probably split my mom's inheritance. You see, there is something called the Slayer Rule, which means that you cannot inherit something from a person you murdered. That's why my sister framed me. Now, she probably only had to give a small share of the inheritance to her accomplice, aka my boyfriend, instead of the 50% I would have gotten otherwise. Well, 2 weeks later, the jury found me guilty and sentenced me to 8 years in prison. Now, if you think that prison for women isn't bad, you are dead wrong. I shared a cell with a woman that had smuggled cocaine from Central America to the USA. She said she was schizophrenic and was unable to hold a job. That's why she became a drug mule, swallowing small balloons filled with cocaine and bringing them over the border. She did it to earn money to feed her daughter. But now that she was in prison, her daughter had to live in a children's home. My cellmate actually spent the first half of her prison sentence in a Mexican prison. But because the guards didn't give her the schizophrenia medication she needed, she ended up having a psychosis in which she ripped out her left eye with her own hands. To be honest, I didn't even know that was possible. Anyway, 4 years into my prison sentence, I got some interesting news. My psycho sister had been convicted of a murder, apparently of a businessman that she had been blackmailing for a while. I was relieved to hear that because I thought I finally had evidence to show that my sister was crazy and that she had probably murdered our mom. So I sent a letter to the prosecutor's office to request a retrial. But after 2 months, I still hadn't gotten a response. So I sent another letter, and then another one. Hopeless. In the end, I had to spend 3 more years in prison until I finally got out. Luckily, I've used my time behind bars to learn coding, so when I got out, I quickly found a job as a remote back-end developer making $5,000 a month. This allows me to work from Airbnbs and hotels all around the world while traveling and living life as free as a bird. Oh, and my serial killer sister, she got life in prison. Exactly what that little rat deserves.